Welcome back, everybody. Today is a very special culinary experience with our partners at Kitchen Tradition and Kitchen Charm, as today we honor the life of Marvin Lee Aday, better known affectionately as Meatloaf. This iconic singer gave us instantly recognizable hits like Paradise by the Dashboard Light, 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad, Heaven Can Wait, and so many more. Growing up, I spent countless hours in the garage house of the Reevy brothers with my fellow Ben Salemites and the bad boys and girls of Ogden Avenue. Later in college, his rock operatic power ballads would still be heard in any bar or music hall. 30 years later, his music is still a staple in any karaoke show. Today, I attempt to honor him with my version of a stovetop glazed meatloaf, this absolute boss of comfort food, which was the namesake of his classic moniker. So to start with, we're going to get our meatloaf ingredients going. Okay, we have 2 pounds of ground beef. I like to use 85 or 90% lean beef. We have 1 medium onion, finely chopped. We have 2 large eggs. We have 3 minced garlic cloves. We have 3 tablespoons ketchup. Going to use my $1 million spatula that I don't think still I've told you guys about, but you will get that story soon, I promise. Okay, we're going to use 3 tablespoons of fresh parsley. I didn't have a chance to grab fresh parsley, so I'm going to use some dried parsley. It works absolutely just as good. I have 3/4 cup of panko breadcrumbs. I have a 1/3 cup of milk. And I'm going to post this recipe in the comments section when this video is all done. What are we missing? We have 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Put some of that in there. We have a little bit, about 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. We have 1/4 teaspoon of black ground pepper. We have 1/2 teaspoon of ground paprika. Okay, and we're going to give that a little mix. Okay, I'm going to use my hand. Now, one of the things when you're making meatloaf is I always like to make sure you're not over mixing. You're not overworking that meat. That lends itself to a tougher meatloaf, and we don't want that. Okay, we want something, this baby's going to be moist and delicious. All right, so this here is all mixed up. Do I have some top shots? Okay, that's great. I'm going to set this aside. And now we're going to work on the sauce, the glaze for this fantastic meatloaf. Okay, leave this bowl right over here. So now we have 3/4 cups ketchup. I want to make sure everybody can see over here. So we're going to get that going in there. Okay, and we have a 1.5 tablespoons of white vinegar. Okay, we have 2.5 tablespoons of brown sugar. Let's get that going right in there. We have 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. We have 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. We'll get that going right over there. We have some ground black pepper, about 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, and let's just mix this glaze up very quickly. Now, guys, you know when you make a meatloaf, it's a commitment typically, right? Takes about, might only take you about 10 minutes to mix it, but you're going to stick it in the oven and you're going to have to wait an hour. Well, we're not going to have to worry about that because we're using the large fry pan by Kitchen Tradition. Okay? Now, this meatloaf, this sauce that we just made, I want you to know, this is incredible. I can't wait for you to make it home and taste it. This is the perfect balance of sweet and tangy flavors. The ketchup combined with the brown sugar, the garlic, the onion powder, the salt, the pepper, the vinegar, it really does create an irresistible sauce. And when you bake it, the glaze caramelizes it, and boy, is it so good. So we have both the ingredients mixed up for the meatloaf. We have it mixed up for the sauce. And let's take this and get this baby going. I'm going to turn the burner on to medium heat. How's everybody doing out there in Facebook land today? All right, you guys doing okay? All right, let's keep that going a little bit. Okay, keep going. Okay, and I'm going to get this meatloaf packed in here. Okay. Now, again, I told you this was different. Now, one of the other things I like to do with the onion is I like to chop it up very fine, or you can even saute it ahead of time. Okay, now do you see how this is different? You probably have never made a stovetop meatloaf before, but that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to take that cooking time. Instead of an hour, we're going to make that cook. We're going to have that cook rather in about 20 minutes. I want to make sure I don't mess any of this gorgeous stuff up. Okay, let's get this going right over here. You can all see that, and let's spread the glaze. Okay, I'm going to take that back a little bit. Now remember, we've talked about waterless cookware before, right? And the beauty of it is the unique construction allows the pan to cook all the way around, not just on the bottom, but it cooks evenly on the bottom, the sides, and the top. So it basically cooks like a mini oven. You know how long it takes for your oven to get hot all the way around? Well, this is going to cook really fast. I don't know if you can see me spreading that glaze all the way around. That's going to caramelize on top and be fantastic. If it doesn't bother you that the shape is a little different, the flavor is certainly going to make up for it. All right, I have that on a medium heat. It was a little extra salt. I didn't want to overdo it. We have that going with the Nutritherm valve down. And let's talk about what we have going on today. Now, meatloaf is something that many of us hated as kids, and some people still may have that dislike into adulthood. There were some parents out there that were famous for making a hard, dry lump of baked ground meat and tried to pass it off with tons of gravy. But let me tell you, when made properly, it can be a delicious, juicy, and tender meal. So meatloaf falls into that American style of comfort, a food rather that we like to call comfort food. Beef stew, fried chicken, biscuits and gravy, apple pie. There are many foods that we think of as comfort. But in truth, comfort foods are anything that make you feel good and warm inside when eating them. Maybe they bring back a memory or take you back to a better time when that food was important to you and was made by a loved one. A classic comfort food meal for me consisted of meatloaf, mashed potatoes and gravy, corn, sliced buttered bread. You had a cold glass of milk and hot patootie, bless my soul. See if anybody gets the meatloaf reference. All right, I'm back to my childhood eating Tuesday night dinner with my family. And personally, I love, and I would do anything for love. Okay, am I killing you with the meatloaf references? All right, a thin sliced cold meatloaf sandwich on white bread with mayonnaise the day after. The mixing of chopped or ground meat with the spices, binding the ingredients, vegetables, that's been around since the 5th century. But American meatloaf traces its origin back to a dish that I grew up eating in northeastern U.S. Specifically, if you know what I'm talking about, you took the words right out of my mouth. Terrible? All right, I told you we're going to honor meatloaf today. Well, that dish was called scrapple. Scrapple was a combination of ground pork and cornmeal that was served by German Americans in Pennsylvania since colonial times. Now, meatloaf, as we know it, didn't appear in cookbooks until the late 19th century. Now, once the Great Depression came around, cooking meatloaf was a way for families to stretch the food they had so nothing was wasted, and a family's food budget was able to last longer. By using an inexpensive type of meat, leftover ingredients along with spices, cereals, grains, bread, or crackers, the meatloaf was an inexpensive way to feed the family and have leftovers for another meal. Now, most countries in the world have their own version of what we call meatloaf, but they're made with local ingredients and, of course, have different names and origins. here in America, it's traditionally made with ground beef, chopped vegetables, or of course the famous Lipton onion soup mix, eggs, breadcrumbs, and spices, and then formed into a loaf, or stovetop style, and put into a bread pan and baked. Now, nowadays, you can do all kinds of neat variations. People add hard-boiled egg, they add cheese, they add bacon, as many personal preferences as you can come up with. You can also use any type of meat. Can include game meats, pork, turkey, which obviously are healthier than beef. And of course, in this day and age, we even have plant-based meats that can be used to make your favorite meatloaf meat-free, and now possible for vegetarians to enjoy. Now, I'm excited like a bat out of hell to show you this amazingly quick and simple version of this recipe. I can tell you once it's made, if I take a plate and go out to the car, it'll be like paradise by the dashboard light. I think I should have a contest later in the comments section if you can tell me how many Meatloaf songs I referenced in this little live video. In any case, it can be made with any meat you choose to use. Today, obviously, we use ground beef, some vegetables, and spices. Maybe we'll add 2 or 3 more ingredients, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Okay, I think that's my last one. Now, this amazing homemade meatloaf recipe is just one of my favorites. The meatloaf is so tender and juicy on the inside with that sweet and tangy glaze that adds so much flavor. It's absolutely fantastic. The ground beef mixed with the onion, the panko breadcrumbs, the fresh parsley and seasoning produces an irresistible tender and juicy meatloaf. And of course, the sweet and tangy glaze adds amazing flavor to this classic dish. Now, if you're lucky enough to have some leftovers, we typically have a lot of the kids coming in out of the house, so leftovers are not something, when it comes to meatloaf, it usually goes pretty quick. And you guys know me already. You know I'm the king of repurposing leftovers and turning them into new dishes. But if you have any leftover, obviously leftover meatloaf sandwiches, one of my favorites. We talked about that earlier. But you can take the meatloaf and add your favorite marinara sauce, crumple it up, and you have a beautiful spaghetti bolognese. You can take some of the leftover meatloaf and you can make incredibly flavorful beef tacos, or you crumble it up and add some black beans or red beans, a little stock. I like to put half a beer in there, simmer it down, and you're going to have an amazing tasting quick beef chili. As a matter of fact, I'd love to hear some of your leftover meatloaf ideas in the comment section below. Now, I don't know if they're tricks or tips, but when I'm done with the meatloaf and I take it out of the pan, I like to keep the juice in there because that juice is fantastic. You pour it over the sliced meatloaf before serving. Another good tip is to let it rest. So when it's all done, you definitely want to leave it, I like to leave it for a good 10 minutes. So this is not ready yet. These shows aren't edited. When I come on the camera and cook for you, they're done live, and I don't want you to have to hang out with me for another 15 minutes. But this is basically it. You leave it for 20 minutes. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. You either serve it either with a spatula, and I take it right out, 2 spatulas very carefully, or another thing you can do is you can drain the juice into a different pan and then put a plate on top, and I actually flip it over and I serve it meatloaf upside down style. Instead of your famous pineapple upside down cake, which, by the way, in one of the weeks to come, we'll cook that right on top of the stove. But you can do that with your meatloaf as well. In that case, what I do is I actually put the glaze on the bottom, a little bit of the glaze, then I put the meatloaf. Then when you flip it over, you have that beautiful glaze on the top. Now, even though this needs to cook for a little bit longer, let me show you. Can we get a nice top shot in there? All right. I wish you guys were in the studio with me and you could see how wonderful this baby smells. I'm going to put it on there. A 20-minute meatloaf, guys. I hope you enjoyed my my tribute to Marvin Lee Aday. I grew up with Meatloaf. I loved his music. I loved his songs. We're very sorry for his loss, but the music will definitely live on, and our cooking recipes will live on too. We'll be back here every week with new recipes, new ideas. Please, guys, don't be shy. Let's make this a conversation. Put in the comment section anything you'd like me to see me do sooner than later. Give me tips, give me comments, give me suggestions. A big thank you to our partners at Kitchen Charm and Kitchen Tradition for allowing us to be here in the studio and showcase these amazing products and these fantastic recipes. Guys, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Everybody stay safe. Be well.